everyone to the Knitting by the Sea podcast. My name is Lisa and I am Saratoga Knitting on Instagram and Ravelry, and I welcome you to my home. I live in Marblehead, Massachusetts, which is north of Boston, and it's on the seashore. Well, seashore, harbor. We're on the ocean here. It is Sunday. It's Memorial Day weekend. I was going to film yesterday, but I wasn't able to. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's a beautiful day here. As I said, it's Memorial Day weekend, so we have an extra day off on Monday, which is exciting. Always exciting to have a little bit of an extra time off. Today we will do a couple of things. We'll talk about my finished objects. I have 2 today, and then my works in progress, and some upcoming projects that I have in the pipeline, so to speak. And then I would like to talk a little bit today about knitting and heritage and family and vintage and just some thoughts that I have on that. And then we'll finish up with some chatter. So let's get started. Objects. I actually have 2 today. I'm very excited about it. I think the last time I podcast, I was almost done with the Pincha shawl and I was going to finish it that day. And I did. And I'm so excited about this. So this is the Pincha shawl. It's from Knitty.com, which is a free online knitting magazine. And this is the Pincha shawl. Don't you just love the colors? They're fantastic. So it's knit in kind of these feathers, and there's lots of short rows going back and forth. It was a really great project to do. It was also out of my hand spun. So I hand spun. This is fiber from Countess Ablaze, which was a Christmas present from my husband and my daughter. And I spun this up as a single. I didn't ply it. And I had never really knit with singles hand spun before, so I thought I would try it with this, and I'm really glad I did. And when you just knit from the fiber that it's just single, it's not plied, you get these really beautiful, great groupings of colors. So these are just fantastic colors. I just love them. I'm really pleased with this. I didn't block it yet, and I'm not really sure if I'm going to or not, but I probably could. I could make it a little wider by pulling down each of those feathers, but I'm pretty happy just with the way it is, and I'm not sure. Hopefully the colors won't bleed, but again, it's perfectly lovely just the way it is. I may just leave it and not bother to do it, because I'm just gonna be wearing this as something right around my neck when it starts to get cold again here. But I'm very pleased. It's a really cool pattern. I would highly recommend it. The only thing I would say, and I think I said this before, is that when you're doing it, there are short rows, so you just need to kind of make sure that you know where you are on the feather when you're doing your short rows, and just don't get lost, because all of a sudden you won't be making a feather anymore, and you'll have to rip it back, and that's never really a good thing. You can do it. I have done it on a couple of these, but you really just need to kind of pay attention. It's not difficult, but you just need to have a little bit of your mind in the game when you're knitting. But very, very pleased with this. I think this came out great, and I highly recommend this pattern. And the second project, I know a lot of you have seen this on Instagram. I did this really quickly. I was amazed. I have a lot of works in progress, but sometimes you just kind of get on a kick and say, I really like this particular project and I want to get it done. I want to see what it looks like when it's at the end of it. So that's the kind of thing. I just kind of put everything else aside this week and kind of worked on this. And this pattern is the Cayudo shawl, and it is by Sarah Brunenberg. And Sarah was actually my downstream partner during the fiber share. I took part in the fiber share swap last year, and I had an upstream partner from Australia, and I had a downstream partner, and that was Sarah from Germany. So I was sending to her. So I put together a package that had fiber and yarn and all kinds of good things to her, and sent it off to Germany. And I never expected ever to get to meet her. But when we went to Rhinebeck this year, I had a little tap on my shoulder, and she's like, "Hi, Lisa, I'm Sarah, and I was your partner in fiber share." And so it was so exciting. It was so exciting to meet her. What a great treat. She actually was giving away one of her shawls. She's a designer as well, and she was giving away one of her shawl patterns while she was at Rhinebeck. And so I used her coupon code and went and picked it up, because I really liked I liked this pattern quite a bit. So this is what it is. This also has short rows. I'm a little short row kick on this one. But this is really super fun and exciting. So it really is, it's a beautiful shawl. This is not blocked, by the way. I have not done this. I'm going to take this over probably tomorrow and throw it on my mother-in-law's clothesline and block this out. Now, I want to call this my Wrapped in the World shawl because of all the different pieces that are in here. This beautiful yarn is from Shara Knits. Oh, I don't have the tag. I'll put it up here. But Shara is a Australian dyer, and she does just gorgeous. This is just so soft. It's so soft. And this I was able to pick up at the Knit Local, the little getaway that I went on. I was able to pick this up from someone else there. And it is gorgeous, and I just wanted to cast it on because it was so soft, and I wasn't sure what to do with it. So I thought I would try this pattern. So a pattern from my friend Sarah, and this is just this beautiful yarn from Australia. Now I knew that I wouldn't have enough of it to do this entire shawl, so that was kind of my conundrum. I'm thinking, what am I going to do, and how am I going to get this done? I'm always like, well, maybe there'll be enough. Maybe, even though it says I need more, maybe it'll be enough. But, deep down I knew it wasn't. So my mind was kind of percolating as to what I would do. So this is the yarn from Shara. And then because I have knit picks, this is not palette, this is Wool of the Andes that I have for a couple of other projects. I thought I would do, they're short row wedges, so it's kind of a half circle, but it's wedged in this area here. So what I thought I would do is to pick some other yarns that I have. So I picked this yarn here, which is a Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, which is really fantastic. Is from John Arbin. And that's British yarn, and I actually got this from my friend Claire at the Woolly Thistle. So I put this all together, and so I have, it's an international Wrapped in the World shawl for me. And this is really beautiful. So these are all done, the wedges are done with some short row shaping, not difficult short rows at all, but it's very simple. Once you get the rhythm of it, you kind of know where you're going with it. And then it has the applied border on the applied edging. So basically you knit this entire piece, and then you pick up the stitches all along the edge to do the lace border. You're doing slip stitch. There's a slip stitch edging on this, so it's super easy to pick up stitches. I know people are like, oh, I'm going to pick up all those stitches. Where am I going to get them from? But it's really nicely done. There's just a lovely slip stitch edging, which makes it super easy to pick up the stitches to do the edging. So this is going to grow when I block it out, but it's really pretty. I love how the colors all came together. I'm just super happy with this. I think it's going to be a great piece for me in the fall and the winter. Super happy. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone who has contributed to this shawl. I really enjoyed it, and I loved getting all the encouragement on Instagram too, because I kept posting it up. I was doing it so quickly, I just kept posting up every day. This is my progress. This is my progress. So I really enjoyed doing that. So finished object, and I even wove in the ends. Whew, just need to block it. Yeah. So let's move on to some works in progress. As you know, I always have a few works in progress going on, but that's okay. It's just knitting. My first work in project is my commuter knitting, my bus knitting. As you all know, I commute to Boston twice a day. Commute in and commute back from Boston, so I actually am lucky enough to have some knitting time on the bus. So I usually knit socks on the bus, and no different right now. I'm in the process of knitting the Layla sock pattern that was gifted to me. And this is by Mina Phillips, the knitting from the Knitting Expat podcast, and it's a great pattern. And I'm kind of mixing it up. Her pattern is written cuff down, but I always like to do my socks toe up. So I just kind of turned everything around. But it's really beautiful. I love this yarn. Again, this is yarn that I got at the Knit Local getaway that we went on. This was on the swap table, so I love this. This is beautiful. Just love the speckled colors on it. It's gonna make a really great work sock. And then there's this. So it has this ribbing lace pattern on the top of the foot and all the way up, about 3/4 or maybe a third of the way up the ankle, the calf. And then there's a different lace pattern as well that goes on here like this. And it's really pretty. If you like lace socks, this is a really great pattern to try. Now, here's my knitting fail on this. It's not a complete fail because it's just knitting, and I can fix this, and I will. What I wasn't paying attention to is that because of the lace pattern, there is a smaller stitch count. I usually use approximately, I think I usually use around a 60 stitch count, maybe a 62 stitch count on my socks normally. And I forgot that the stitch count was less because of the lace. Now the lace part is perfectly fine. That will fit perfectly fine because the lace is very, very stretchy. So I don't have any issues with that. However, when I did the cuff, I did not increase back up. So now, and when I bound off, I realized that this is way too tight. And let me show you what I mean. You're like, it looks fine. What do you mean it's too tight? No. If you haven't knit socks toe up, you'll see what happens here. So basically, I'm going to try to put this on the sock blocker, but it's not going to work. So I can get it, the foot part. See, everything else is going to, this is going to be perfectly fine. It's going to be perfectly fine. It's going to fit on my foot. It's going to be beautiful. But you'll notice that because this is too tight, it's not going to fit over the instep and the heel on my foot. So that is a problem. But what I have to do, and I'm just going to do it when I cast off the second sock because I want to use the same, I'll use the same needles. What I have to do with this is pick out the bind off and pull it, rip out some, I may rip out the entire cup and get right back down to the last plain knitted row that I did, and I need to add on stitches so that this will be my normal 60 to 62 count around so that it will actually fit on my foot. Just need to beware of that. I usually don't have that trouble because when I'm doing it, I'm always just doing the correct number of stitches. But because this is a smaller stitch count in the lace pattern, I did have that issue. But if I have that issue, other people have that issue, and it really is not. It's a super easy fix. The hardest part will be picking out the bind off because you have to do that a little bit slowly because you're wrapping all those stitches over each other. But then again, that'll be fine. It won't take me. Just spend some time doing that. But I will not do it on the second sock. I will increase up to the correct one. So kind of a knitting fail, but not really a knitting fail. It's not a mistake if you fix it, is it? No, corrected mistake is not a mistake. So that's my sock process right now. But otherwise, it's a great pattern, and it would work out perfectly if you did it the way that Mina wrote it and did it puffed down. You'd be perfectly fine, which you certainly can do, but I just prefer the other way. I actually pulled out yesterday morning my Brunsfield vest because I really haven't been giving that much love lately. I've been distracted by other patterns, and this is going to be my Rhinebeck sweater, and I do have to work on it because I really don't want to get to all of a sudden it's the 1st of October and I have to have this finished. So I have done a couple of rows on it. I've actually finished another section of the Fair Isle here. So I finished this section yesterday, and then I'm going to be moving on. I think I have to do. I'm probably midway through 44. I probably have another amount of like this to do before I end up doing starting to do the shaping for the neck and for the armholes. But I'm still really liking it. It's just a matter of pulling it out and sitting down and doing it. As I tell myself, you've got to do that. But I'm really enjoying it. I like doing it, and it is Fair Isle, so it's only 2 colors every row. So it's really not that. It comes out looking fabulously complicated, but it really is not. And I do have the chart colored in, which is very helpful. So I know what colors I'm going to pull out next, because it does change. not each of the rows, but several of the rows will change one of the colors as you go. But because I colored in the chart, I know which color I'm going to go for. This is Knit Picks palette, my go-to yarn for this type of a project. Yeah, so I'm actually working on this, so I thought I would bring it out and show it, because you guys have to keep me honest. I'm getting this done. My other on-the-go project is my Granito sweater by Joji Locatelli, which was very kindly gifted to me by Jenny, Tiny Paper Foxes. And this is a great pattern. It's from the top down, and once you get through the shoulder shaping, it's really interesting shoulder shaping. And once you get through that, then you just got a ton of knitting. You're just knitting around and around, so it's really great TV knitting once you get to that point. But I can show you. Where's the back? Yep, this is the back. So I'm pretty far down already. So I'm really happy. It has this really super nice slip stitch detail that goes right down in front, and it also goes down in the back. And what I have come to is, you can see this, I've come to adding on the pockets. There's 2 pockets right along the side. They're really interesting, right along the side and not in the front, they're on the side. So they go like kind of underneath the armhole area. It's really interesting. And so I've started the front part of the pockets on both sides, and I'll end up knitting all of it down, and then you knit the back, tack it together, and then you end up doing a collar and the sleeves, of course, the sleeves. So I have a ways to go on this, but I really feel I like it, because even if you sit down for half an hour, you can really get a lot of progress done on this. And I just really like the pattern, the way it's written and how it's constructed. It's really interesting, and I think the color is great, I think, for me, and I think that it's going to be a bigger sweater, so we'll go over things and be really just comfortable. I was actually thinking to myself the other day that, I see so many people and they are knitting, I think it's the featherweight cardigan, which is a beautiful pattern, and I always look at that and I go, oh, geez, I don't think I could knit an entire sweater in fingering weight yarn. And then I was thinking to myself yesterday, I'm like, that's all I've done in a long time. I did my boho sweater last year, totally in fingering weight yarn. I'm doing this totally in fingering weight yarn. I need to move on to some worsted sweaters that go really fast, go faster. I'm doing the best in fingering weight yarn. Oh my gosh, what's that all about? I need to move on back up. It's like someplace in my mind, I'm only doing sweaters in worsted weight. It's like in my mind, I live in France, but in my mind, I never knit fingering weight sweaters. That would take way too long. Very silly. Anybody else do that? Very, very silly. Anyway, I'm very pleased with this. This is coming along wonderfully. It's easy to pick up and easy to work on, and it goes by fast because there's just so much knitting. But because you have this little interesting detail, the slip stitch detail along the front and the back, you do have to think. So it's not completely mindless. So it keeps my interest going on it. So I'm very, very, very happy with that. My third piece is my couture piece I spoke about a couple of episodes ago. This is the Lomond pattern that was so kindly gifted to me by Helen. It's Bright 966. And this is gorgeous. This is pattern by Meg Gadsby. And this is knit out of some beautiful, gorgeous lace weight yarn. You can see. It's a great pattern for a lace weight. I'm not, I do fingering weight all the time. I'm not a big fan, or I haven't been a big fan of knitting with lace weight yarn. It's intimidating because it's so thin. But a project like this is great because most of it's knit flat, so most of the pattern is just stockinette. So you're knitting and purling and knitting and purling, and really all you just need to do is make sure your stitch count is correct as you go across. And then there are the intermittent little lace panels here. And here's another almost knitting fail, not really, but again, I ended up it's, I'm not paying attention, but it's just knitting. And when I got up to this small lace pattern here, there are some yarn overs. There are quite a few yarn overs, and some of the rows have 2 yarn overs, so you're binding off 2 and you're adding 2 yarn overs. That's just what happens in lace work if you're not familiar at all. You always, if you bind off, if you're like knitting 2 together or slip knitting, depending upon which way your decrease is going to lean, then you need to add stitches in because you've decreased a stitch. So every time you do a knit two together, you need to do a yarn over so that your stitch number comes out correctly. Paying attention, I think we must have been watching something interesting. I think we've been watching catching up on the Vikings, the last season of the Vikings on the History Channel. It finally came up on Netflix or Amazon, so we were catching up on that, and I was not paying attention when I was doing this. I should not have been doing it. But so what happened was that I lost some yarn overs. I wasn't paying attention, and I didn't do enough. So I came to the end of the lace section. I'm like, this does not look like it's enough stitches, and in fact, it was not. I had lost a bunch of stitches, and if you lose it in one. If you lose it in one row, that's it. You're not gonna be able to find it again, and you're really not gonna be able to fudge it. So basically what I did is just rip this back and did it again. It was perfectly fine. It took like a half an hour, and I redid those rows. It was perfectly fine. I was on my way again. So it's a beautiful pattern. It's just gonna be it's a rectangle. It's just gonna be a beautiful, nice wrap for the cooler weather. So I'm very, very happy with this, and I consider it my couture because it's going to be something. I won't wear this every day. It will be, it's a very special yarn. It's a special pattern, and it's going to be used really for special events. So I would wear this maybe to a wedding, or especially going out to dinner, or something special. So in my mind, this is my couture project, and I'm very, very pleased with it. Then that. The other thing that I'm looking forward to doing, I don't have the pattern yet, but I'm going to be doing a test knit for Marcia Ibuki for Very Little. And I just wanted to show you what this is going to be. I was gifted by the lovely Wanda this skein of yarn. And this is called, it's the Saratoga Springs collection. So she purchased this at my old local yarn shop, and it is so gorgeous. It's so soft. It is BFL and silk. It's 50-50, and it's so soft. It's so soft and beautiful, and it has so many different colors in it. And I really wanted to save it for a special project. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, but I really wanted to save it. And Marcia messaged me and asked me if I would like to test knit for her for a shawl. She does great shawl patterns. And I said, absolutely. So then I was thinking about it, and she told me how much yardage I needed. And so I think the pattern's being tech edited right now, so as soon as it's ready to go, she'll send it to me. But I'm like, maybe I'll pull that out and let's see what I can find. So I went to my local Marblehead Knits yarn shop, and I probably spent about a good half hour in there, which is kind of fun to do. I asked the owner of the store where the yarns would be that would match nicely with this, and because this is silk, she pointed me in a couple of different directions. And what I ended up finding was this beautiful Plymouth yarn. It is Happy Feet. It's a superwash merino and a little bit of nylon, so it's meant to be soft yarn, but it's perfect. It's perfectly fine. And look at that beautiful color. So that's really going to, I think, be a nice contrast with this one. It's going to pick up that little bit of grayish blue right in there. I think that's going to be lovely. And again, super, super soft. Oh, it's going to be wonderful. And then the third one that I picked up, and once I picked this up, I couldn't put it down again. This is called from the Fiber Company. It is Road to China, Silk and Jewels, a luxurious blend of cashmere, camel, silk, and baby alpaca. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Oh my goodness. It is so incredibly soft. So these are going to be the 3 colors that I'm going to put together for this shawl, and I think it's really going to match nicely. And again, this is going to be special, because I have a special skein of yarn from a friend, and then I purchased a couple of special yarns to go with it. I'm going to have a special shawl from my friend Marcia, and I'm really looking forward to getting this and getting it, taking a look at the pattern and getting it cast on. I can't wait. So that's my upcoming project. So now let's move on to talking about some knitting and history, etc. Let's see. I wanted to talk a little bit. kind of about a little bit about family history and vintage kind of stuff today. I've been thinking about it, and I wanted to talk about my grandmother a little bit. My dad's mom was the knitter in the family. I don't even know when she learned to knit, but she certainly knit all the way through the Depression. She would knit my dad Argyle socks. I've never knit Argyle socks, but he fondly remembers her knitting him many pairs of Argyle socks. She taught me how to knit when I was young. I probably was, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9, and she, I think she's one of those people that knit for necessity. She enjoyed it because I always think of her as a knitter, so I must have seen her knitting all the time. When I was a kid, I didn't knit so much. I did a lot of crochet, and I also did counted cross stitch quite a bit, and I really think it was just because I think for my parents it was kind of like an easier investment for them to let me do crochet and counted cross stitch, because counted cross stitch, you buy one kit and then you're working on it for months and months. And not that I totally enjoyed it. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it at all. And I think, if I wanted to crochet something, I remember crocheting a blanket for our couch at one point. So I was doing, it was granny squares. I was just doing granny squares, but it was a project that they could see that I would keep on going. And I think with knitting, probably because my dad knew knitting from his mother. Knitting was more of a commitment for a kid my age. And my grandmother didn't live near us; she lived in the next town over. So it wasn't as if I could like run next door and get help from Grammy to help with my knitting. If I did something, I would have to wait for her to come and visit us at some point in time. So I think for them it was more of a, why don't you focus on your other things, and maybe when you get older you can do more knitting, just because I didn't, you need to use a pattern, etc. And of course as a kid, I remember wanting to make this huge poncho, and I was like, I'm sure my mom was like, yeah, I don't think so. He'll never finish that. Why don't you concentrate on something else? Which was fine. I totally enjoyed it and was able to do all my crafty things. But my grandmother did teach me how to knit. I think the first thing I knit was, a horrendous, didn't even make a garment. I just made it. It was it was supposed to be like a triangle, and it turned out, it was supposed to be a square or a rectangle, and it turned into a triangle. I don't have a memory of, I have a memory of doing it, and I have a memory of liking the look of the knitting needles with the yarn, and I think I switched to crochet because it was easier to do just with the one needle, and I enjoyed it. And I don't remember having a great desire to knit until I got older, more like after college, I always knew how to do it, so I must have done it intermittently, but I kind of got into it more after college. But the inspiration was was certainly from my grandmother. She made us, every Christmas we got sweaters from her, and she would ask us, she'd ask my brothers what they wanted. One year they would want a horse, and the other one wanted something else on it. I didn't necessarily get sweaters, but I used to get hats. She made these beautiful cable hats, and they'd have pom-poms or, the long braided pieces on them. So they were always just gorgeous and beautiful, but we always got something when we were younger for Christmas from her. And, I always remember that. And I think she passed away when I probably was 20, maybe 24, 25, someplace in that range, which is really, I always find it's really a shame, because I really didn't come into my kind of knitting mojo until after that. And I wish that I had been, I wish that she could see me now doing the knitting that I do now. I think she would be really happy that I have picked it up. But she definitely is my knitting inspiration. So I wanted to show you. I have a picture here. This is a great picture. I love this. I actually love this picture. This was me. I think it was on my first birthday. I don't know if you can see with the glare. So you can see this. So that's me sitting on my dad's lap, and that is my grandmother, Anita, and that is her father. So this was a picture of all of the generations. And this is at my other grandmother's house, I believe. the picture was taken. So this is a really special picture for me to have. And this is the way I remember her. She always had gray hair, and yeah, she was a pistol. She had a lot of fun. Her husband, my grandfather, died when my father was, I think he was in college. So very early, she had been alone for a long time. So she really kind of came into her own. She was crazy. She played the piano incredibly, and she was one of those folks who could just sit down. If she heard something, she could play it on the piano. That to me is incredible. So she had this amazing musical talent as well. And I think that one of the stories in the family goes that she actually got into the Juilliard school when she. For college for music, for piano, and her parents wouldn't let her go because they didn't want her. At the time, when was that? That was, the 20s, probably the 20s, and they didn't want her to be in New York City alone, so she never got to go to Juilliard, which is, you think about those things now, you're like, oh my gosh. But that's kind of the way life happens. But she was a fantastic piano player, none of that musical talent has passed on really to any of the children, and none of us. I think my cousins have it more, but no, my brothers and I are not in any way, shape, or form musical, unfortunately. But I did get the knitting. I did get the knitting genes from her. So she was always she's always my inspiration. I always think of her every time I pick up a knitting project. I think of my grandmother. And I have a couple of things today. It's really nice. I'm wearing a pair of earrings. They're really pretty. They're just little, they're little diamond posts. However, these belonged to my grandmother. I actually don't think my grandmother had pierced ears, but I think they belonged to her mother. And for some reason, who knows why families do this, but when her mother died, the earrings were split up. She and her sister, and they were split up. So she got one, and her sister. Why you would do that? I don't know. But several years ago, my dad, he always had this earring because she ended up giving it to him, of course, and he ended up having a copy made so that he gave it to me one Christmas. So I now have a set. So that's really fun and really lovely to have these earrings as an heirloom piece to pass down through the generations. And what I also have of my grandmother's, which is really kind of special too, it's really cool, is I have her knitting bag. Look at this, isn't this great? This is probably from the 30s or maybe the 40s, but it's it's an old handbag. But she always used this. She always had this with her. And inside it I have all old straight needles, but I also have. She had a double-pointed needle holder, and I think it's from Boy. So it's old, very old. Yeah, from Boy, but it's plastic, so it's really a mess. But look at this. You see, she had all of her double-pointed needles that she used to knit her socks. There's safety pins. There's a little needle sizer. Well, don't we all need that? They needed it then too, and some of her straight needles that she had. But I don't use any of these, but I always keep it. I always have it. Have it with me, and it's great because every time I open this, I can smell this now. It smells almost like my grandmother, which is really kind of cool. So this is really very special. I always keep this. I always have this. So it just kind of stays in with my knitting things. I actually use it. I do put have other older needles. Straight needles, if I have straight needles, sometimes, you never know, sometimes you might need a straight needle or two. So I keep those in here, and that always stays with me. So that's always it's very fun, it's very lovely, and I really enjoy having these pieces of my grandmother close to me, because she was is my knitting hero. So I always keep these things with me, and they're just heirlooms, and I love to have them, love to think about it. So I spoke last time about I had received a message from a friend of the podcast, and I can tell you who that is. It's Leslie Wind, and Leslie is a beautiful jewelry maker, and she's local to me. She lives up in Rockport. So Rockport is just a few miles up the coast, so it's north of here. It's a lovely, lovely, lovely area of Massachusetts. But she has a studio up in Rockport, and she had contacted me. And what we're going to end up doing is I'm going to go up, probably be sometime in June, I'm thinking. But I'll go up one day, and she runs workshops on a regular basis. She also has an Etsy shop, which I will link here as well. Gorgeous. She makes beautiful shawl pins, regular pins, just beautiful, beautiful jewelry pieces, functional jewelry pieces, which are really special. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up and spend the day with her. And I'm going to make probably make a shawl pin for myself, which is fantastic. And then she's going to gift us something to give away on the podcast. So one of her pieces she's going to gift to give away. So that will be happening probably sometime in, I'll be doing the drawing probably sometime in July. But what I would like to do is I will go ahead and put up the thread now when I put this episode up. And what I would like to do, I'd love to have a conversation with you and just kind of tell me about some special items that you might have that mean something to you, whether they're knitting wise or not, or there's some piece that you keep that belong to someone in your family that's very special to you. So it could be something vintage, it could be something that's just special to you. It doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but maybe there's a piece that really touches your heart and means means family to you, or it reminds you of a relative that's no longer around, or it reminds you of a relative that is around. Really anything that you would think of that's kind of special to you. It doesn't have to be knitting related, but just something special to you that you would maybe have and that you would consider so special that you would consider handing it down to someone else, because Sophia's going to get this knitting bag. I don't know that she knows she's going to get this knitting bag, but she is going to get this knitting bag eventually. So if you can, I'll put a thread out for that, and just tell me about it. You can show me pictures, and what I'll do then is have a drawing probably in July sometime, and some lucky winner will be able to get a marvelous piece from Leslie. So I look forward to that. All right, let's move on to some chatter. All right, what has been happening? Some things have been happening here. Oy. What a day yesterday was. As I said, I was going to podcast yesterday and did not get to it. My brother-in-law and his wife Paul and his wife Lena took a vacation. They've gone to Spain for 10 days, and they live over in Salem, and they have a sweet little cat. And their sweet little cat is very much at the end of her life. She's pretty sick, but she is still kicking. Surprisingly, still kicking. She has medication. I think they give her a little bit of steroids every day, and that seems to she's got more than 9 lives, so she's still kicking. So we Mark and myself and another friend of theirs, we go over in the morning and feed her, make sure she has water, and spend a little time with her, and then try to give her medication. And then another friend of theirs comes in and does it at night. So. Yeah, it was just a stupid thing. It was not her fault whatsoever. But yesterday morning when we went over to try to give her medication, I went to try to pick her up so we could get it into her. It's a liquid, so you just kind of squirt it in her mouth once you can get her up. And for the last couple of days, it was fine. I was able to pick her up and do it. She can be she's tiny. She is tiny little cat. She is skin and bone. She's so little. So you really literally can scoop her up. But she can be a little bit. She's a scratcher and she can be a biter. Yeah, and of course me, I'm like, oh, cats, I can handle this. Well, yesterday was really stupid. The way I went to pick her up, she saw me coming. And she latched onto my thumb, and she bit into it very deeply. I was like, wow, oh my God. And my poor husband was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Of course, it's bleeding. I finally got it. It's bleeding all over. And she's just kind of looking at me going, got you, didn't I? Yeah, it was bleeding. We got her food. We were like, well, let's forgo the medicine today. But we got that done, and we... we're driving back home, and Mark's like, I think we need to go to the urgent care. You really should have that seen. I'm like, oh no, it'll be fine. But as we're driving, it's kind of starting to get swollen. It hurts. I'm like, he's like, my brother-in-law has had this happen to him before, and he didn't think about it too much, and he ended up having to go to the hospital and get intravenous IVs for antibiotics. So it really was not pretty. And so I was like, all right, let's turn around. We really should go to the urgent care. Luckily, there was nobody there. I mean, it wasn't very long, but the nurse practitioner who saw me, she's like, how long ago did this happen? And I was like, about an hour ago now. She's like, oh, good. I'm really glad you came in. So she cleaned it out and, put some cream on it, put a Band-Aid on it. She's like, I didn't really remember. I'm sure I've had a tetanus shot because I go to the doctor, of course, all the time, but I couldn't remember when it was. She's like, well, we're going to give you a booster today anyway, so we're going to give you the tetanus shot booster. So I have a shot, and she's like, no, you have to go on antibiotics right away. We need to get them started on you today. And so I have not even 7 days. It's 10 days. 10 days I have to be on antibiotics because of this cat bite. And, she said the problem is, she said people wait too long. And she said the real problem is that it doesn't happen so much with dogs because their teeth are not sharp, but cats, because their teeth are so sharp, once they can get onto you, and most of the bites are on a hand, they're not really on an arm, because that's what happens. You're going in and they get you. And luckily she got me right here on the pad of my thumb. And she said the teeth just go in so deep, and all the bacteria that's in the cat's mouth gets deposited right in your hand. And then you can potentially have issues with joints, and it just can be bad if you don't pay attention to it. She's like, if you go home and you start to see that telltale red line going up your arm, you need to go to the emergency room. But she goes, that's not going to happen. We're going to get you started right away on the antibiotics. So that was my yesterday. So a word to the wise: if you ever get bitten by a cat, I don't care how you think it's not anything, it's nothing at all. Once I started looking at this on the internet, I was like, oh my God. And I know my brother-in-law did this exact same thing. And what happens is that the infection gets in too deep, and the oral antibiotics are not enough. So they have to do it IV. And then sometimes it gets so bad that you have to have surgery, because they have to open it up and drain it and actually wash the bacteria out of your finger or your area on your hand where you were bitten. So it's actually very, very dangerous. I had no clue. I had no clue about this at all. So, word to the wise, if it ever happens to you. So yesterday, needless to say, it was pretty sore. I couldn't really pick anything up, and it was swollen. It was not pretty. It was very sore to the touch. It's still sore today. It's still swollen a little bit, but it is 1,000 times better than it looked yesterday. So getting that antibiotic in me right away was the right thing to do. So I couldn't really knit too much yesterday, but I was able to do some this morning. So I think I'll be fine. It doesn't look pretty at all, but I can move it, and it's not like you're not screaming. Not that I was screaming in pain, but it's not painful to move or pick things up today. So I just need to be careful of it and make sure I take the antibiotics for 10 days. Oh my gosh. So that was my day yesterday. Hopefully yours was better yesterday. But some other things have been going on. The time has come that my husband needed new glasses, and I need new glasses. I've actually realized, so I had a couple of days off from work, and so we actually made an appointment with the ophthalmologist. And when we went, and he's like, yep, your left eye is catching up to your right eye now. So we both have a prescription. My husband has to start wearing them all the time now too, because he needs them for distance and for close up. So he has now moved into not just having readers, he's moved into having to wear glasses full time. So he's not particularly happy about that. But so we actually went and we ordered new glasses this week, and so hopefully by the end of the week we will have them. A little expensive, but you got to do what you got to do. And I probably have had these glasses. I gotta say, the optician, when we went to get the glasses, he's like, oh, let me check and see, how these were set up. And he's like, ooh, these are old. I'm like, yeah, totally old. I want to say they're 6-8 years old. It's been a long time. And he chose glasses that are in much better shape for my face, so I'm really excited about them. I think they're going to be really nice, and my husband's are very nice as well. They're progressives, because I've always had progressives. I need to see I need to see far away, I need to see a computer screen, and I need to read. So I've always had the progressive lenses, but my husband hasn't. So the optician he's very nice. He's like, but you need to wear them. And you have to wear them all the time, because if you wear them for an hour and you put them down and then you try to wear them again, you're just never going to get used to it. So that's going to be a learning curve here in the house, I think, for a little bit when he gets his on. But I actually have realized that I have stopped reading. I still read, but I don't read anywhere near the amount that I used to read. I would just fly through books, and I would like to read before bed. And I find myself getting frustrated because I always think, well, the light's not bright enough. I can't read very well, and the reason is because these glasses are so old that I just can't focus enough to read in low light. And I just realized it's just been frustrating me, and I haven't really paid attention to the reason. I've just kind of stopped reading for pleasure. Now, I'll read on the Kindle sometimes, or I'll read on my phone. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm just from the old school. I still like to have a book in my hand. It's not to say I won't read on the phone or on the iPad, but I'd like to have a book in my hand when I read. So I think when we get these new glasses, or we both get our glasses probably at the end of this week, it's going to be a revelation. I'll be like reading everything because, oh my gosh, I can actually see. So I'm really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be nice. We also are most likely going to be moving soon, so I will not have this lovely setup anymore. But the lease here is coming up, and since Sophia is coming home, this is only a 1-bedroom apartment, so we really need something bigger. We probably will purchase a condo, but the market is crazy right now, and we're probably going to be purchasing it with Sophia. She's very interested in doing that, so it would be something that we'd have to really seriously look at when she comes home. But for the meantime, we are looking at renting. We're actually looking at renting a house right now, which is actually right down by the water. It's by the Boston Yacht Club. It's very rustic. If you watched the podcast for a while, if you kind of remember the house that we were in for a while down in Marshfield, it's not as dark as that house, but it's rustic. It's got a lot of beams on the inside, but it'll be a great house. And it's a great location. Literally, it's on the water. It's right by the yacht club. So it'll be noisy because we'll have a lot of parties going on. 4th of July, though, it'll be crazy down there too. We'll be right on the water for that. So I think that's probably what's going to be happening. So we'd be moving right at the beginning of July. Sophia is coming back at the end of July. So that's very exciting. She's kind of getting ready to wrap things up, thinking about getting stuff home, and she's gonna be looking for work here, but we're pretty excited. We're excited about that, so that will be fun. And then I've also been spending some time with my husband. I think I mentioned before I've had a couple pictures here and there, but he and his brother-in-law have a drone now because they do architectural work, so they actually need one to fly over and look at rooftops that need to be replaced, or they just can get into all kinds of places that you need to see without having to get on a ladder and do that. So that's really great. But Mark's been playing with it, so he's out taking pictures of the harbor, taking pictures of the lighthouse, and just different places around Marblehead, which is really fun. So I've been helping him with that. There's all kinds of things you need. You have to have a person with you who will always have eyes on the drone. There's all these requirements. I had no idea. So I've been helping him. With that while he's been out doing it. Now that the weather's nicer, we can actually do that. So he has some really great pictures, some shots of the sailboats on the harbor, the lighthouse, etc. So I'll probably put some in at the end. And I think that's about it for today. It is Memorial Day weekend here in the United States, so we do have Monday off, which is fantastic. And I think today we're going to be grilling some steaks here and having my in-laws over for dinner, which will be very nice and lots of fun. And yeah, I think that's it. So next time will probably be the last time my podcast from this location, and hopefully our new location will be all set and ready to go. But thanks for joining me today. Please, you can subscribe to the podcast. And you can reach out to me certainly on Instagram and on Ravelry. I'd love to hear from everyone. Love to interact with all the knitters out there. And remember, it's just knitting.